Excited to have in studio right here Hall of Fame broadcaster in advance of co-hosting the exclusive viewer chat in real time throughout the PPView, payperview.com, pay-per-view live stream of the August 3rd Terence Crawford Israel Madrimov World Championship event right here in Los Angeles, California. This very Saturday is Jim Lampley here on the Rich Eisen Show. Good to see you, Jim. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Rich. Great pleasure to be with you again. And a privilege.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate that. Also, we'll talk about your new memoir, It Happened. That's available for pre-order on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, coming out next spring. But it is great to see you here in advance. Have you been to that facility, the BMO Stadium?
No, I have not.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, I've been living in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, for the last 5+ years now, and very infrequent trips here to Southern California. So, yeah, I'm in a new environment.
It's great.
Getting ready to go to an arena in which I have not sat before. And it's a spectacularly well-stocked boxing card, which will take place there Saturday night. And, of course, Crawford is a historically significant fighter, making a historically significant choice at this point in his career, so it's good to be a part of PPV.com.
What is the historically significance in your estimation?
Well, Crawford is, first of all, he's a classic American River City fighter from Omaha, Nebraska, who emerged from not necessarily amateur obscurity, but he wasn't an amateur superstar, to become what he is now, which is clearly the #1 welterweight fighter in the world, and very strongly, arguably, #1 pound for pound. And as #1 pound for pound, he now faces a passage in his life in which he tries to decide, all right, what is the best and most efficacious way for me to translate #1 pound for pound into #1 dollar for dollar? #1 dollar for dollar is Canelo Alvarez. Terence Crawford fights at 147 pounds. He began, when he first emerged into public visibility, at 130. I covered that first major appearance a long time ago, and I've watched his entire career develop. And he's a pretty sturdy 147-pound fighter. But he wants to fight Canelo Alvarez for monetary and economic supremacy in the sport. And Alvarez fights at 168 pounds. So Saturday night's business is that Crawford will now appear for the first time at 154. It sounds to the layman like nothing. You were 147, now you're going to fight at 154. It's 7 pounds, so what? Well, in boxing, it's not so what. In boxing, it's a significant passage. And it's the first of the questions that Terence must answer now to see if he can get into position to, within a reasonable period of time, because he's 36 years old, get to 168 pounds and present himself as a logical opponent for Canelo in what would be a massive, you can't count the money kind of fight.
That's at 8 Eastern this very Saturday, downtown
Crawford
here in Los
versus
Angeles.
Madrimov, who is from Uzbekistan.
Very good. On PPV.com, that's the pay-per-view live stream of the event. What's the first fight you ever called, Jim?
The very first fight I ever called was Mike Tyson versus Jesse Ferguson. February 1987 in upstate New York. And Tyson was in the middle of the knockout streak, 17, 18, 19 of them, I believe, with which he began his prominent heavyweight career. And that was his first network television appearance. I had been assigned to boxing by a brand new division president at ABC Sports, whose name was Dennis Swanson. Dennis Swanson arrived at ABC Sports to succeed Rune Arledge as boss of the division. All he wanted to know was, how do I get rid of Jim Lampley? How do I get that salary off of our books? And he thought that the best way to do that would be to assign me to a position which would embarrass me. And he made the judgment that that would be boxing.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's the full story.
That I would not fit in boxing, that boxing would not accept me and my particular style, that the audience in particular would resent me because I would appear to be replacing Cosell on the ABC Sports boxing telecast. So that's how I wound up in upstate New York on a Saturday in February covering Mike Tyson versus Jesse Ferguson with the expert commentator Alex Wallow, who was an executive in the sports
at ABC.
division.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that Dennis was trying to get rid of Alex too.
So spiteful management is what have birthed your 30-year Hall of Fame career.
It's ironic as any career path you can find. You know, so obviously I had been this golden boy anointee at ABC Sports, winner of the talent hunt to become the first college-age reporter, appeared on the sidelines of college football when I was, virtually a teenager, and now not that far down the road from there, 13 years later, Swanson wants to erase my entire career, and boxing becomes the vehicle for that.
Well, I mean, and then I'm remiss when I say 30-year career in boxing. Obviously, your career is longer than 30 years and still going strong. But 30 years as the host of HBO's World Championship Boxing is what I was referring to right there in the shorthand. And, I guess instead of...
HBO was a unique perch in boxing for the longest time.
Sure.
Because premium pay cable became the media entity that was the proper showcase for boxing.
So just kind of going down a little bit of memory lane right here, we've pulled three of your, what we feel is some of your more iconic calls.
I trust your judgment.
Okay, well, I think well, you can confirm it or deny. But the first one is in the Tokyo Dome, February 11th, 1990, when Buster Douglas shocked the world against the aforementioned Mike Tyson.
A desperate one-eyed fighter. Brawling willingly just to try to get in the shot that will finish things in.
Oh, the uppercut.
What an uppercut by Douglas, and down goes Tyson.
It's over. It's over.
Mike Tyson has been knocked out. Let's go ahead and call it the biggest upset in the history of heavyweight championship fights. Say it now, gentlemen. James Buster Douglas, undisputed heavyweight champion of the world.
Yeah, so the culminating line that I chose there was Mike Tyson has been knocked out. And it was such an overwhelming and dramatic and unexpected event that I literally was conjuring in my mind, what can I possibly say that matches the impact of this for fans? And something inside me said, don't try. Just deliver the most matter-of-fact understatement you can possibly deliver on this and leave it alone. Mike Tyson has been knocked out. I'm pleased that your people and you, Rich, intelligently chose that because, yes, I'm proud of that line.
Well, what happened on that day? I mean, now that we are so far removed from it, I still can't believe it.
1,000 things happen. I mean, there are all sorts of things that go into fighters' lives. And Mike took himself down a variety of precarious paths that made it harder and harder as time went on for him to focus and to work within the cocoon that Customato had created for him. The cocoon was going away. Customato was going away. This very ambitious actress woman had gotten functional control of his life. A whole lot of things went on. And one thing that went on was that while people were paying attention to all of these explosive and seemingly instantaneous knockouts that had defined his career, that wasn't everything that was happening to him in the ring. This was not the first time that he had been less than dominant against a taller, longer, differently equipped heavyweight. He went the distance with Bone Crusher Smith. He went the distance with Mitch Blood Green. He went the distance with Tony Tucker. All these things happened before Tokyo, and people blithely ignored that. People stuck to the perception that every Mike Tyson fight was a minute and 30-second knockout because he's the greatest knockout machine in history.
Don't blink.
Well, that was true some of the time, but it wasn't true all of the time. And Douglas, if you looked at the other fighters I named with whom Mike had already gone the distance, Douglas was the tallest. Douglas was the most athletic. He had been a college basketball player. There were lots of reasons, if you were really careful about it, to foresee difficulty for Mike going into Tokyo. And oh, by the way, just the event itself, it's the date was correct on the graphic. I loved it. February 11, 1990. Yes, it was February 11, 1990 in Tokyo. It was February 10, 1990 in the United States.
Right.
If you see that date referred to here in America, it'll say February 10, 1990. It was primetime television on HBO in the United States. It was 11 o'clock in the morning in a stadium with 40-something thousand totally silent spectators in Tokyo. They made no noise whatsoever. So Larry and Ray and I are calling the fight, and we're literally modulating our volume down to something like Golf Channel type to cadence, because anything else would have felt absurd. You know, these other 35 or 40,000 people around us, they're not making any noise.
Wow.
So you know, by the 6th or 7th round, we're whispering. As though Corey Pavin is coming up the fairway to try to finish his attempt to win the U.S. Open.
I love that.
It was a bizarre and unusual evening, and that's how you got Mike Tyson has been knocked out.
So here's another call of yours, Jim Lampley, November 5th, 1994, when Michael Moore got hit all night long by George Foreman, who finally made it, as you would say, happen.
Michael Moore is down.
Goes Moore on a right hand. An unbelievably close-in right hand shot. 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It happened. It happened.
Which is
So let me tell you where it happened came from.
Yes, please. Sure.
I know, I got goosebumps too.
Joe Cortez is counting. And as Joe Cortez gets to 4, 5, 6, you know, it's abundantly clear that Moore is not going to get up. Foreman was the expert commentator on our HBO boxing telecast at that time. Mm-hmm. So in the weeks and months leading up to the fight, I had a few occasions here and there to talk to George, who was not always forthcoming and conversational, about the upcoming fight with Moore. And I asked him more than once, George, what's the plan? He's 26 years old. He's a southpaw. He's athletic. He has footwork and speed and timing. He is not exactly what someone would choose as the ideal opponent for you. How are you going to beat Michael Moore? And at least 3 or 4 times, maybe more, multiple times, George would give me his calm, leave me alone look and say, Jim, you watch. There will come a moment late in the fight when he'll come and stand in front of me and let me knock him out. Always the same words. He will come and stand in front of me and let me knock him out. So as Cortez is counting 5, 6, 7, I'm sitting there thinking, how did he know this? How could he have foreseen? How could he have been so certain that this impossible event was going to take place? I don't know if I'll ever know exactly what was, because George was not always the world's most voluntary conversational person. And as Cortez is counting to 10, once again, I got to come up with something, right?
Yeah.
This is one of the biggest moments in the history of the sport. It happened. It happened. Couldn't think of anything else to say. Turns out to be my most remembered and iconic call. And, oh, by the way, the title of my autobiography, which is coming out in the spring.
You're getting emotional just talking about it, Jim. I
get emotional because it is the metaphor for my entire sports broadcasting career, going back to a ridiculous national talent hunt with 432 contestants in the spring of 1974 to find who was going to be the first person to stand on the sidelines of a college football game with a camera and microphone. And, you know, somewhat analogous to the call of Foreman Moore, I, who did not fit any of the qualifications that ABC Sports said they were looking for, wound up being the person chosen from that talent hunt. I couldn't possibly be the person chosen for the, quote, college-age reporter job. I wasn't college age. I was already 25 years old. It was supposed to be somebody who had never had any broadcasting experience, never had a microphone on. I had done a lot of that stuff. I had done broadcasting on campus at UNC and for University of North Carolina football and basketball radio network. I violated all the rules of the college-age reporter talent hunt. And eventually, I got a call from Dick Ebersol in New York on August 8, 1974, and said, we need you in Knoxville, Tennessee on September 7th. And I got off the phone thinking, how in the world did this happen? I'm going to have to find out the story at some point. The story ultimately was simple enough.
Sure.
Rune Arledge got cold feet about putting a completely green person onto the air in what had now become a publicized network television role, and asked his staff, did we interview anybody who's actually had a camera and a microphone around them? Yeah, we did. We interviewed one guy. He was kind of abrasive. We blew him out of the process. That was back in Birmingham in springtime. And Arledge said, let me see him. So I wound up going to do an audition tape for that.
Wow. It happened indeed.
It happened. And and that's how I chose those words while Joe Cortez was completing the count. Just, thinking about, it was really me talking to George. He had said that to me, repeatedly. And kind of with disdain, like, why wouldn't you believe me? Just recognize he's going to come and stand in front of me and let me knock him out. Look at the video sometime. It's bizarre.
We did today in advance of this, and I honestly thought, like, he's standing in front of him,
right,
in round 10, and he'd been taking the same beating with the same punch all night long. Why is he standing
and now
there?
Here he is, finally asking for decisive trouble once and for all, and he gets it.
It's only you can say,
and
Jim
by the
Lampley.
way,
Yes.
Michael is offended if you try to suggest to him that George had anything like a plan or any construct that said he knew what he was doing. To Michael, it's necessary, and I respect this. It's important for him to believe that George got lucky. But I don't believe George got lucky. I think George knew what he was doing.
Last one for you, Jim Lampley. I guess this is your life as we're playing here. This one, again, it's different from the other two in the fact that it's not a seminal knockout moment that you're meeting that moment as a broadcaster, because you never know when the knockout punch is coming, but you might be prepared for it, obviously, as you would be. I don't know how you can be prepared for a guy flying into an arena with a fan attached to his back. Here's that moment on November 6th, 1993 in Caesar's Palace of Bowe versus Holyfield 2.
And somebody in a parachute has just landed on the edge of the ring, has been pulled away by security guards. The fight has been brought to a halt. There's a massive melee at ringside, as this fellow with a motorized parachute has landed right on top of spectators and officials at ringside.
Fan man.
I mean, the fan man moment.
Mondo Bizarro. Yeah, and I get about probably 15, 20 seconds of preparation. Producer in my ear, Jim, our cameras are tracking something really strange. There's a guy in some kind of a whirly contraption who is circling above the ring, and he appears as though he's going to aim to try to land this thing in the ring. So just be aware. Just be, be alert while you're calling the fight here that it's quite possible, as far as we can tell, and from what our cameramen are telling us, that somebody's going to try to land a flying contraption in the ring. And he did.
Yes, he did.
And all sorts of chaos broke loose as the result of that. Second fight between Bowe and Holyfield. First fight had been a stunning and unforgettable fist-to-fist battle that Bowe had won with a great and spectacular performance. Holyfield had hired my dearest friend in the world, my closest male friend, Emmanuel Stewart, to try to figure for him a plan to beat Bowe and get the heavyweight championship back. Emmanuel had come up with a genius plan, and now Evander was in the process of executing that. Judy Bowe, Riddick's wife, was, I want to say, 7 or maybe 8 months pregnant. She was pretty close to delivery. Van Man came down within about 5 or 6 feet of Judy Bowe. Yeah. And I mean, he could have landed it on her if he had lost control at the end or something like that. So Judy Bowe winds up getting taken to a hospital in an ambulance immediately. And now from that point forward, we're trying to call the fight and at the same time wonder what is happening to Judy Bowe, who is ready to deliver a child and is now at the emergency room in the middle of the fight.
And Riddick must have known that, right?
And I am very convinced that Riddick knew that. Yes. Which could not have helped him in the closing rounds of a pretty close fight that was headed toward a pretty close decision in Holyfield's favor.
Wow.
I just love that because, you get all sorts of heads up from your producers in your ear in your career. Never like, somebody's got a fan attached and he's circling the stadium. It looks like he's landing.
There's the show that the public sees, and there's the show that we hear in our ears. Okay? And the feedback is not always the same.
That's right. Before I let you go, Jim, I want to talk Larry Merchant with you a little bit here. I'm a big fan of his, and I know obviously you are too. We have an audio drop that I don't know why we have this for years, but whenever we play it, but every now and then we play it. Go ahead.
I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
I can't get enough of that.
Well, and Larry. Here's my favorite part of that.
Sure.
And I have a lot of favorite things about Larry because, yes, obviously, he's one of your most unforgettable characters in life if you've met him. But it's a great photo. I like that. Had dinner with him last night.
Nice.
The 94-year-old Larry Merchant.
Fantastic.
Yes. But he delivered that line at the end of a contentious interview with Floyd Mayweather, and Mayweather had said something really abrasive to Larry about, I don't even know why they let you do this stuff. You don't know anything about boxing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it was offensive. And Larry turned to the camera and kind of raised his eyebrows and looked at Floyd and said, if I was 50 years younger, I'd kick your ass. If I was 50 years younger, I'd kick your ass. What a great line. What an amazing line. It's 9 hours, no more.
Yes.
9 hours from the moment that took place until you could buy on the Santa Monica Pier out here behind us a T-shirt with Larry's face looking into the camera and the caption, if I was 50 years younger, I'd kick your ass.
Please tell me those exist still. I'll take a size large.
You got to find it somehow or another. But within 12 hours, you could buy the T-shirt on the Santa Monica Pier. That's why Larry Merchant is an icon.
No doubt about it. Hey, Jim, this has been a great chat. Look forward again to the ppv.com pay-per-view live stream this very Saturday. Terrence Crawford, Israel Madrimov, the world champion event that's in downtown Los Angeles. And, of course, everybody go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble right now and pre-order your copy of It Happened, the new memoir of yours, Jim Lampley. It's released in April. Great to see you.
My privilege. Great to see you again, Rich.
Right back at you. And, of course, Susie Schuster, who adored her time working with you on Real Sports, sends her best to you.
She's an adorable person.
Thank you.
I'm sure that all of your various wives have been adorable, but this is the one you will keep forever.
That is correct, sir. Thanks for the time. Appreciate it. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.